Hello and welcome to another episode of Recovery Stories Have Power. My name is Oliver Books. On today's episode, our host Tyler Brandon interviews Tim Snyder and Mike Oxley of the Talkin Trash Recovery Podcast. Talkin Trash is a self-described honest and raw podcast that's pretty off the cuff. Tyler even joined them on an episode a few weeks ago. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't put a content warning on this episode. Some of the language used in this episode is not necessarily language that Faces and Voices of Recovery uses when describing substance use disorder. However, the Talkin Trash guys use it to self-identify and help connect with the community that they have cultivated. Also, we're trying something a little different this episode. First, you'll hear a podcast as is regularly scheduled, and then we're going to jump into something special after the end credits. Tim has gifted us with his recovery story. For some of us who have some experience in recovery spaces, this is not an unusual way of connecting and community building. And bottom line, recovery stories have power. That's what this podcast is about. So, stay tuned. I hope you enjoy this episode. Without further ado, Tyler's conversation with Tim Snyder and Mike Oxley.
Well, hello, listeners. Welcome back to another episode of Our Recovery Stories Have Power here at Faces and Voices of Recovery. Today, we have two very special guests. I guess now, since we've already met and collaborated, I can say colleagues in the podcast realm. So I'd like to welcome my very special guests, Tim Snyder and Mike Oxley. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Pleasure. So, if you two would like to introduce yourselves, whatever you'd like to share with the listeners, then we can pop into some testimonies, but start with some introductions.
My name's Mike Oxley. I am a nurse. I am a licensed nurse. I've been a nurse for quite some time. I chose nursing because basically I wanted to give back. I went through a period in my life about 15 to 20 years ago that didn't destroy me, it didn't kill me, and it made me stronger, and which is true. And although I'm not in recovery, I can definitely see the similarities between my struggles and those of addiction. I became an empath, and I became a kinder, gentler Nurse Mike. And I kind of liked what Nurse Mike became. Somebody that kind of told it like it was. And don't you deserve that when you're going into an unknown circumstance as addiction and rehab and detox, and you don't know? And wouldn't it be great to have somebody there like I would want to just break it down for me, tell me the story, what's going on here, what's next, what's this going to do to me? Is this like prison? Is this like a country club? It's kind of both. But, you know, our podcast and this venture that I've been in is, I'm actually not a practicing nurse right now. I had a devastating stroke, a debilitating stroke about 18 months ago, where I lost the whole right side of my body. And I would go 100 miles an hour, 7 days a week, and take overtime. And I always worked the night shift. And I actually had a major stroke. And I'm very fortunate that I've recovered for the most part. In fact, I just started driving again after a year and a half. But you know, that's nothing to do with addiction. But I'll tell you, it's made me realize how hard sobriety, thus recovery, is. And recovery just doesn't mean from substance abuse. Recovery is something I can very much attest to and how difficult it's been for me. This podcast, I never dreamed, helps me. It actually helps me every day. I feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm contributing. I feel like I'm making a difference. And we'll get more into the cast of characters that became the podcast, our audience, and actually a dysfunctional family, kind of. And it wasn't planned, but Tim has more of your normal addiction pitfall tearjerker story for you. Here you go, Tim.
Hey, my name is Tim Snyder. I am the host of Talkin Trash podcast with my friend Mike Oxley here. I I'm a year and a half clean over trial and error. A lot of making the wrong decisions. Not a lot of not caring about the decisions I'm making, and not caring who it affects. Um, I'm 42 years old. I have two grown children, two girls, 20 and 18, beautiful women. They're my best friends today. I A year and a half ago, I was in a bad spot. Um, I've always been an addict, right? And you know, I was either I could how do I describe it? I was addicted to Nintendo before I was addicted to drugs. You know what I mean? Like I had to have 10 donuts, not just one. Like I had to have more. I have the disease of more. And it it showed itself throughout my life, but I was able to arrest the full-fledged addiction part early on when I had my first kid very young, and I was able to pump the brakes and get my head on straight and provide for my family, and I did that for 15 years, and I wasn't clean, but that's what I tell everybody. There's a difference between sobriety and recovery. For most of us, sobriety means you're going to use again and you're going to pick up again. Recovery is being active in your rehabilitation from these things you did to your body, and being active in rehabilitation for these things that you have wrong with your body. Mental illness, for me, I'll speak for myself. Mental illness, so I don't know. That's my intro in myself, or my telling my story here. Anyway, I'm Tim. I'm from Georgia. I'm living with my parents. And yeah, I'm grateful to be alive today, and that's why I'm doing a podcast, and that's why I'm sitting here talking to my friend.
Well, the next step was the testimony. So, I mean, we're already there in a way. But since Tim started us off in the testimony, we're jumping into him. So,
Yeah, it's hard not to just
oh, I know.
And
yeah
that's what people say about our podcast, that it's real and it's
Yes.
yeah.
real and it's raw. And how do
Yes.
you do that? They say, how does Tim do that real and raw? And Mike, you're so forthcoming and real and raw. And I'm like, to be honest with you, Tim and I don't know any other way to be. So
Right.
it's very easy for us. I can't imagine being any other way on a podcast. They know it all. They know it all.
This podcast for me is my next step in recovery. I haven't been successful until I'm, you know, I'm not going to say I'm successful yet. I'm not. I'm always, but I'm not relapsing. I'm not burning things to the ground. I'm not continually having to put out fires. This podcast is the opposite of what Tim would do in recovery. Tim, if I did get sober for a period of time, I would hide. I'm not an addict. I won't go to AA meetings, NAA meetings. I'm not going to let my wall down. I don't trust people. I'm afraid of people. I'm scared of everything. Thank you for letting me ramble on. Cut, cut out whatever you need to cut out. But to have the opportunity to share my story as I'm saying it, I'm realizing what a privilege that is. And so I appreciate faces and voices and their and Tyler has been great. We clicked for first phone call, and I'm like, yep, I got a new friend for life. He didn't know it, but I knew it at that time. So like, it's these kind of bonds, these recovery bonds. Me and Tyler, me and 50 different other people that are involved with our podcast. it, this is real life. This is real connection with people. And I almost pity the non-addict. Um, they don't they don't get to have that. They maybe, but like it's just one of those things where like it keeps it green for me. If I'm a bad decision away from being under the ground, and to realize that I am not invincible, and that I probably don't have many more lives left. Um, I think this is my last chance, and I was determined to at least try to do it right. So I'm in the midst of it. If you want to follow along, you can see how I do. We do clean time. I'll throw it over to Mike. Mike, just would you tell them about our clean time segment and what that's done for everybody? And then just you can go into your history. I know I went on for a while, but I'm going to pass it over to you, Michael. Michael.
Well, yes, Tim had actually come up with this formula of getting recognition, and I think originally where Tim was, the meeting that he wanted to go to was far away. And then he started to gravitate towards distance and recovery and keyboard warriors and what that meant for people that are isolated and 2 hours away from the nearest meeting. And so we started um, getting some responses to the podcast, and it kind of caught on to where we would do a clean time segment where we would announce everybody's name as much as they were comfortable, their photo, their name, maybe just their initial for their last name. But I had no expectation. And that has grown into the basic building block of the show. Um, Now there's 30 or 40 people that we track their time. They need
46.
that pat on the back. They need that a boy. They need to be recognized on a podcast that they are at 2 months, that they are at 82 days. And, it's it's been quite it's been quite a ride because it has grown into a good portion of the show. And I became, you had mentioned it one other time, I became vested in our audience
Mm-hmm.
and them using us as part of their recovery. I'm not in recovery. I don't know if anybody really knows that. I'm not in recovery. I don't pretend to be in recovery. I I grew up with drug and alcohol use throughout my family, my extended family. My dad was the oldest of 10. My mom was the oldest of 7. Them being the big brother and sister, everything came through my house, through family. Every problem they had with drugs or cops, or I just saw a lot. And my brother is an alcoholic. There's a lot of people that are listening right now that may know me. People that have known me for 30 years. A lot of people didn't know that I had a brother, believe it or not. There was definitely some dissension there. We had fell off of contact. I watched him be a family man, but he was always, since his teenagers, a functional alcoholic. And about 15 years to 20 years ago, he became a non functional alcoholic. So when I was choosing what path I wanted to go through nursing, I really couldn't help my brother because he was in denial. And my mother was still thought the sun rose and shined from him every
Mm-hmm.
morning. I decided if I can't help him, maybe I can help somebody else. And I was naive enough starting my nursing career um, in detoxes and rehabs. And even when my stroke happened and I couldn't be a nurse anymore, I'm still naive enough. And my naiveness is back through clean time, thinking that these people, as they go through sobriety and recovery, are including me and including Tim and including each other, and the accountability that they have. It was definitely not a planned metamorphosis into what clean time has begun. And to truly understand, I would want you to watch an episode of ours if you could, and fast forward if you want to clean time. And it's pretty special. It's my favorite part. And if you're able to watch the video version of Clean Time, you're going to see men, women, old, young, black, white, LGBT. You're going to see exactly what a detox and rehabilitation facility looks like. Now, for somebody that's watching this as a family member that's asking a bunch of questions, what's detox like? Should I go to detox? Is it going to be like jail? The parents saying, "Well, who are these people? Are they going to hurt my child or my significant other in rehab?" Watch a clean time. See who is really afflicted by this terrible, terrible disease of substance use disorder. It is a disease, and you're going to see our clean time. old, young, smart, maybe not bright, male, female, tall, short, black, white, Hispanic. There is a special bond that they have in Clean Time that is unlike anything I've ever seen on another podcast. And I'm proud to be part of it. And I didn't realize that, guys, I don't know how to be honest, and neither does Tim, but it's helped me immensely. It's given me something back by I'm not helping them. I'm just guiding them along, They're really helping me. And I don't mean recovery wise, but I mean recovery wise because of the physical disability. If you watch the beginning of our podcast and saw the disabilities that I had physically, you can see that I can't even use my right side when I'm talking, and I'm right-handed. If look at last week's, I'm clapping, I'm cracking my knuckles. I use all the strength that they use in recovery to maintain sobriety to kind of push forward and do the goals physically that I needed to do to get where I want to be. And I'm
And what
there.
Mike does, what Mike does beautifully is he gets away with a lot just because he's sweet and he's kind and he seems to get away with murder on our show, and I think that's
I just
it's a
say it like it
gift.
is.
It's a gift. Shocking. Some shows I have to edit. We're gonna do tonight's show live again. But yeah, like Clean Time was just a filler. Like I was trying to make 45 minutes happen. I didn't know what to
Mhm.
do. And now I'm like, I have to cut like stuff out because like we're running out of time. But like Clean Time, it started off as a minute and 40 seconds. It was about 10 people. Way to go. And it's just me playing around. Like I said, I'm a graphic designer. I know how to do all this stuff.
How about the people that reach out? That gets me every time. Like, you guys are the only ones to believe in me. We've never met, you know? Tim and
That's what
I
I
are
was
the
gonna
only
say.
ones that we're all they got.
I never expected it to be like that. I never expected to be someone's support, and I never expected to get the emails that we get. Where, you
Mhm.
know, for example, my lady sends us an email, says, my son overdosed on Friday night and he passed away. She basically asked us if it was okay for her to um, feel relief, but she felt guilty because the
She
the,
felt
the,
relief.
the addict was yeah the addict was running her to the ground, taking away sleep. She knows if he is alive or dead. Now she knows where he is, and even though it's sad and whatever, it's better than like she felt guilty, like feeling like, well, I can. She probably got her first full night's sleep in 10 years,
Right.
and
I don't have to walk around with Narcan in my hand all night, again, up and
so
down the hallway, making sure Junior's breathing down there. So, by her sharing that though, Tim, and you brought this up originally, and this is just one story, but um, she is helping others. She is giving back by 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 bringing that up to our show and being part of our show with that share. Um, I'll never forget it, and the thousands of listeners that heard that will never forget it either.
yeah.
You know,
I mean, what what it comes down to is this: like I'm I've been given gifts. Like I'm the dumbest smart person you'll ever meet. You know what I mean? Like I can remember every license plate I've ever had in my life. Can't remember I put bread in the toaster till smell it burning. Um, so like in this respect, I was able to use my talents that are God given. I didn't do anything to be graphically inclined or whatever. I I'm using these talents for his glory, I guess, as they would say in church. Um, and I just wanted to help people. And it's not something to entertain me anymore. It is a full-time job. Let me tell you something. And it wasn't supposed to be called Talkin Trash either. That was like way early on, and I got stuck with that name. My mom came up with that one too. But yeah,
it's
so we're
better
stuck with.
than Timmy Time. Come on,
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean, yeah.
100%.
Timmy Time. That's almost
100%.
creepy. So
It
much
was.
creepy, Eric.
It's kind of adorable, but
Yeah.
Not
then
creepy.
you see like a man in his 40s and you're like, "Oh, well, maybe we don't go with
Yeah.
Timmy Time." I imagine like it's a child's book YouTube channel, something like that.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah, so like I was it just happened. Like I don't even remember starting the podcast. I just remember things happening. And I got a new computer, and I went nuts. And I it, it does. It gives me purpose. But it is a full-time job. It was actually supposed to be called Sober Dose Podcast. Sober Dose, Overdose. I don't know. That was the cool name I came up with. So we're stuck with Talkin Trash. But what's neat is the name of the podcast, the approach of the podcast, the graphics, the grunge, whatever. I've created a brand that people can let their guard down with. They look at it and they're like, all right, this isn't this. I can identify with some of this. I make it very flashy, very cartoonish, but in a professional way to grab people's attention. And we drag them in, and we joke around, and we do silly stuff, but we hit hard too when it's time to hit hard.
Every recovery is different. Everybody's recovery. We're not affiliated with any type of way, any type of meeting, any type of facility. Spiritually, I don't care if you're a Scientologist. Just everybody recovers different. There's no judgment through our podcast. And I didn't realize that this unadulterated, unedited, and not that Tim doesn't do a great job editing, but unedited, unfiltered, to a certain degree, raw and real opinion on what it's really like as a nurse, being in a detox. And Tim, with as an addict, was such a niche in what we were doing that podcasts really lacked that accountability to themselves. We took it serious when our clean time people started being accountable to us. Hey guys, send a letter. I know I'm at 133 days, but I had a bad weekend. I fell off the wagon. I relapsed. Okay, no problem. Relapse is part of recovery. We'll start.
It's crazy that they feel obligated.
Number three.
To share that with us. I relapsed, and I want you to start my timer over. So we can really talk, huh Tyler?
Yeah.
No, it's good. It's good. No, and I think you've almost become accountability coaches for listeners on your podcast indirectly, or you could argue directly, maybe some indirectly, but I think it holds people, accountable for trying to, especially the clean time segment. There's a visual aspect to it where I'm sure people connect with, like, wanting to see their picture and their name with a longer time frame. It's congratulatory. It's something that they can look forward to. It's an achievement, so I think it gives a bit more. It's almost like the modern day. And obviously, not saying that meetings are outdated, but what I'm saying is it's a modern day use of social media for a positive purpose, where you can take something where maybe your town has a very low population, and your local, let's just say AA, because we all know about AA. Your local AA meeting has 4 people in attendance. Yeah, it's nice that there's 3 people that are going to congratulate you, but it's also nice when you have 100, 200. When you have those numbers increase a bit, it is nice to have a bit more support than just 1 or 2 people. Not saying that's not enough, but it is just nice to have a little bit more support than you would think, being that now you're in a community virtually that you wouldn't have in person.
Well, Mike made a great point. Some of these people don't even get a good job. They don't get anything from anybody. They get their the ride I've read to them at home every day. We didn't expect that. We didn't expect to be their pat on the back, that push to keep going. I just figured it'll be fun. Play music. I'll show pictures. I'll do graphics, all that stuff, and it's turned into something different. It's a great way for us to interact with people that are hurting. They may have 175 days sober or clean or whatever, but they could be hanging on by a thread. And we try to meet them where they're at. We don't talk at anybody. We don't talk down to anybody. We also don't tell people what to do. I'll share what I did. I'll share how I would deal with the situation if it were me. But I'm not going to pull any triggers for anybody. I'm not clinical. I'm not a nurse. Mike's even not a nurse. He's just a knowledge nurse. We don't give clinical advice, but we'll point people in the right direction to where
we're going to tell you the truth.
And that's a
Let me
fact.
tell you
That's
the
what it
truth.
really comes down to. We're not gonna sugarcoat anything.
I didn't realize the truth was so lacking in recovery sometimes. But it is. And like I said, I don't care how you recover. I don't care where you recover. If it's works for you, I don't care if you relapse. Just it's a constant battle, which again brings me back to the simile of my physical rehabilitation. And I know there's days that were worse than others, and days where I wasn't up to it, days that I was weak and I didn't want to climb those stairs. Um, but I did it, and you know what? In the inverse, clean time people, I'm not in recovery, and I almost feel I don't want to disappoint them by not tape the show tonight because I'm not feeling great. And I know Tim has been in the hospital trying to tape a show, and for Tim, it is a full time job between the graphics. And when I give out his phone number, like 609-384-1000, he will
See,
answer at 4 a.m. He will and put you
he's
in a rehab
unbelievable.
facility.
You're gonna need a new phone number.
Well, my phone, I've had it for 20 years, and it's
It's a great number.
384-0100. I taught my kids that number. I'm like, three was hungry, so at 84, you got to remember
Yeah.
0100. Mike's like, I got that. I'm all over that.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, I did. I got an email. I got a call 3:30 in the morning a couple months ago from a guy who was suicidal, and I just kept talking to him. I'm not clinical. I have no. All I know is that I've been suicidal. I've attempted suicide. I've helped people in my own way, dealing with suicidal ideation, things like that. Um, to get a phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, well, I know it's not a creditor because they call during business hours. So let me see who's dying. And sure enough, this guy's he's got a loaded rig. He kept saying, I got this rig loaded. All I gotta do is do it. Why don't I do it? My kids, this, that, the third, why don't I do it? And all I could tell him was I was gonna end my life once. And it sounds a lot like what you're deliberating right now. You're bringing me back to the time I had 14 bags in a needle and we're gonna end it. And that level playing field to talk to this guy on, um, he didn't do it. He went to he was a pain in the ass for a few days, but we got him pointed in the direction of a rehab. Um, that was a Wednesday morning. By Saturday, he's in detox. By Sunday, I'm getting calls from his counselor. I'm his emergency contact. I don't even know this guy, and
This is what I'm
like
talking about being vested, and they're vested in us. And
Right.
to feel that comfortable with a guy that you see on TV on a podcast once a week, it's getting through that we're real, we're raw. It's not acting for us, the success of this podcast. It's just how we are. We're just two guys that thought it would be neat and never knew that it was going to benefit and give back to us probably just as much as they get from it. It's
Right.
it's
oh,
it's
more.
really amazing. It's
Well,
been amazing.
what's
It's
crazy is
all
that
worth
is it is, and that is the point of the 12 steps. That is the point of life. The 12 steps are you have a spiritual awakening and you give back. That's the 12 steps in one sentence. Um, that's being a good human being in one sentence. You're spiritually fit, you're humble, you're not your own God, and then you give to the next person. And the cliche, it's better to give than receive. That's real. That's real because it's real. Because you know, I never understood it till I had kids and with Christmas, and I was so excited, wrapping every little gift the right way. And it's better to give than receive. And we're built that way as humans. And AA, the steps guide people to that don't have that inherently. So we're just Mike is a Mike is too humble for his own good. He brings so much to the podcast, and we do this. We don't do it for profit, notoriety. We do it to spread the message, and because it seemed to me like, and from talking to other people, that there was a lack of what I'm trying to provide people.
You
Everything's got
didn't
its
even know it.
place. I didn't know it, but everything's got its place. But our little level of talking trash or whatever it connects with people across the board. Like Mike said, you look at our clean time; it's every rage, age, sex, whatever. So like we didn't expect that, and I didn't intentionally do it. I'm not some marketing genius.
Right. We're a
I
nonprofit. We don't get any money for this, but it's the thing is I was naive enough, and this didn't do much for it because I still believe it. Um, that every nurse has empathy and compassion. I thought that's what you were supposed to do if you were a nurse. Have empathy and compassion. And the one other thing, to even have compassion for those that don't even know that they need compassion. I
Right.
thought every nurse was like that. So working in facilities, I don't want to say names or facilities, I found out that there's nurses that are just there for a paycheck. There's nurses that aren't telling you the truth.
one
There's
in
nurses that
six.
don't care. So what are you doing here? My naiveness and my gusto and go for it and good old boy and Yahoo, we're gonna do this together. People realize that it's not an act, and because if there's one thing addicts have is the ability to see through somebody's bullcrap. And when they're in recovery, I will beg of them not to lose that ability. I don't know how they got the ability, but one friend through addiction seems to be they can see right through people. They can see right through people's bullcrap, other people's, I guess, because they're conscious of their own. But I just don't want them to lose that ability because it's going to come in handy as they go through recovery and a sober life also. And that's all I ask of them. And I'm still that naive nurse like my first day on the job. What do you mean he's not going to be clean? What do you mean? So it's good. It's wholesome. Not all the time. Sometimes I can be a little blunt.
No,
Tim has to keep a leash on me sometimes.
eh. we have a bell. So when Mike gets inappropriate, I ring the bell, and he knows to
Yes.
stop. Um,
Hmm.
yeah. So I'll just wrap. We're doing this because there's a need for it, and I'm doing it because I have the skills to do it. Um, but like it's easy to do because I'm not putting on a show. The graphics, the music, all that stuff is fine. But when I talk, I'm not for once in my life, I'm not being fake. I'm not trying to, make you think I'm
You're an
something that
open
I'm
book,
not.
Tim. You've been an open book since we started production several
Yeah.
months ago. And remember, we're at episode 60,
Yeah.
Right.
which
Yeah.
is
This.
pretty crazy.
So, I mean, obviously, I did an episode with you guys, and it was a great episode. And I would highly recommend listeners to just, yeah,
I don't know. You had 11 or 12 emails about you.
really. Oh,
Yeah,
Tyler came
yeah.
on our show episode 54, 53. I don't know. It's on there. We got we got like I got like 15 emails on Tyler, maybe it's 12, 13, 14, something like that. I pulled one here. I'll read it for you real quick. Just to show you what kind of guy you got here. This is Steve McDonald. His phone is 1-800-BLOWME. Longtime listener, big fan. Tyler was your best guest so far. Loved it. Dude's got a great story and is super down to earth. Get more guys or gals like him on. Please forward this message to him. Myself and a few of my other recovery circle agree. Have him on monthly. He's definitely part of the trash family, like Will, Tina, John, etc. Except he's the best. Don't tell the others. Thanks for doing
You
what you
just
guys
did.
do. So yeah, so Steve McDonald loves you. Tina Mackinlin loves you.
That was all
Rory,
McDonald. I think he has a
something
farm.
over there. That's triple what we usually get.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love your
probably for you guys.
listeners.
They're
Probably
cool.
for you.
Oh, thank
It's a
you
big.
both.
I call our whole audience and our listeners and longtime listeners, like it's a big dysfunctional family. We are kind of
And
really.
that I know very well.
Yeah.
It's a big dysfunctional family that we've become, and I'm proud of it. I'm not embarrassed by it.
Yep.
I'm proud of it. I
Yep.
mean, people don't understand. So watch an episode and see what you think. Oh, Tim, you might want to talk about this, and
That,
real quick. And there's been some um, residential and recovery centers that use episodes of our podcast now,
Yeah.
because they're video, will use episodes of our podcast as part of their group instead of having a speaker or running a group. They will simply, when we were in
Nice.
school and they brought in the TV on the cart and press play to watch a movie day, kind of like that. And we're becoming more and more nationally used by facilities as their group hour, which is
So
kind of impressive.
yeah, so
Nice.
what's happening with that is just a disclaimer. We don't we don't we don't blow up anybody's spot. We anonymity. If I share somebody's correspondence with us, I get their permission first. Same thing with clean time. I talk to all those people. So yep. So like getting to that point, the we had a guy I knew him. I was personal friends with him. He works at a rehab. He's just a tech. He called me one night, like 10 minutes before group time, and they're in inpatient rehabs, they'll have H&I come in, which is hospitals and institutions. AA speakers will come in and do service work and give you their story and run a meeting or show you how meetings run. A lot of times they bail at the last second. And then the staff at 8 o'clock at night has 50 men looking to be entertained, and
Right.
they got no group to run, and then they start running some stupid group that they're not prepared for, and it's just not conducive to positive recovery. A friend of mine asked me right before a guy just bailed on him. He said, can I play your podcast for these guys? I'm like, well, it's an hour and 1 minute long, so it fits the time frame. They've been playing it ever since, and I have this is my fourth rehab that's heard that is asking if they can play my podcast. So anybody
Sure
that's
they can.
anybody that's on our podcast, involved with our podcast, they're well aware of it's not like clean time. You can give us your full name, you can give us your fake name, you can give us like AA, like John Q, whatever. But yeah, your correspondence is being broadcast with the rest of the community. That's what makes it work. And we're very careful not to blow up anybody's spot or say something personal about someone that doesn't need to be said.
Right.
There's time and place for everything, but we've done a pretty good job, I think,
Hmm.
in the last 50 episodes of being able to bridge those gaps. There's so many gaps. There's a paradigm shift in recovery happening now. Right now, it's like it's evolving as we speak. Dual diagnosis, rehabs opening everywhere.
The
Uh,
stigma that goes
the
with it.
stigma is more acceptable. So we're trying to jump in that gap where people are like, "Oh, what's the truth here?" We convey a lot of good information as far as mental health.
So
It's
we do that. We do tell them the truth.
That's for sure. But we convey our personal experiences and how it helped us. And I've been in every rehab, taken every type of psych med. I can speak to my experiences, and I'll have people come on and be like, I started, whatever Effexor 2 weeks ago. I don't feel any better, and I feel like I want to use. I'm like,
Right.
they may tell
And
you
they
it's
got
going to take
released.
3 months to start kicking in. So it's just
Right.
there's a lot of things
Mhm.
get overlooked, and we could try to bridge the gap there. I think it's about it for us rambling on, Michael.
No, it's important information. Where can everyone find you though? So I know that obviously our YouTube channel and then Spotify, but where, what titles, what website, where are the best links? What are
Yeah,
the
I
best
mean,
links?
if nowadays you kick the website name you want. We're trash-podcast.com. It took Mike 4 months to figure that out. He could not say it right. But if
Hey,
you say
I'm
he
just a
got
talent, man.
yeah, right. I gave him
The
He didn't figure it out until I gave him an email address 2 weeks ago. So now all
Yeah,
of a sudden he knows the website address.
Mike at
Um,
trash-podcast.com.
yep. Trash-podcast.com. That links everything up. But honestly, if you can go on Spotify and type in, I don't know, trash addiction, and we're the first ones that'll come up. Same thing with Apple. There's a lot of talking trashes out there, but we're climbing the ranks.
Amazon.
Amazon, with
logo is
Audible.
with two T's connected, right?
Yes.
Off
Well,
of
yeah, yes,
Spotify.
it is. Thank you. Yes, it is.
Little cover
It is
art.
yep. So we're not hard to find. You put my name in anywhere and everything will pop up. My name is Tim Snyder, Snyder. And I'm available to any addict at any time of the day, and that's what keeps me sober today.
Thank
609
you.
384 0100.
Jesus Christ, Mike.
Yes. Thank you. Well, before we close out, I have one more question. I know we
Sure.
talked about this in prep, so you guys have had plenty of time to think about this, so I'm not taking any
I
prisoners here.
forgot.
No, you do. You remember. Yeah, exactly. You're smiling. So before we close out, what is one philosophical, and I say philosophical, it doesn't have to be like Aristotle, Socrates level, but what is one statement or sentence or affirmation that you feel could benefit listeners in their day-to-day life? And it doesn't have to be specifically recovery driven. This can be anything that you feel has assisted maybe your mental health, your recovery itself. I mean, whatever you think listeners can take with them that's going to be beneficial to their everyday life.
Hmm. Well, I mean, know thyself. Like that's an old adage. I think it's know thyself, know thy enemies. 1,000 battles is 1,000 victories. You know, uh, this is what I've been saying for the last 4 hours as we've been recording this. Myself now is just me. I know myself. I can be myself. So like one of the penalties for refusing to participate in politics is that you end up being governed by your inferiors. So that's Plato. But know thyself is me. Yeah, I mean just keep it real, y'all.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just drop the mask. Drop the mask. Just be yourself. You'd be surprised how people will love you for who you are and not for who you were trying to be. You're trying so hard to get their love. Just be yourself. Just if you're an addict and you're a heroin addict, whatever, just know thyself and to thyself be true. And that's what a 42-year-old Tim says, who lives at his parents. And take it for, take it for what it is. Michael,
Yep.
what do you think?
So much of addiction is based upon mental health, and it doesn't necessarily mean mental health like in a straitjacket mental health. It means the little things that are self-medicated: your anxiety, your depression, your social awkwardness, your OCD. Um, there's such a close relation. I can't strive enough to follow up after a detox or rehab assignment with some kind of professional, psychologist, somebody,
Yeah.
because unless you can work out what's causing it, and even some trauma in there, you're just being sober. You're not in recovery.
Yep.
But I'll take it a step further and just leave you with this: is that one of my friends um, is a music teacher, and always told me, "Free your mind, the rest will follow. Free
Ugh.
your mind, the rest will follow." And that music
Well,
teacher was in vogue.
en vogue.
Yep.
Drop the mic. Boop.
Unbelievable. So yeah, so that's Mike summed it up. We're a huge proponent of mental health. I'm a huge proponent because I'm a huge uh I'm active in mental health recovery. It goes hand in hand. I was depressed and anxious from 5 years old, and I just never knew it. And I never addressed it. And I addressed it, and it ended up almost killing me. And it takes time to figure out mental health. You
Yep.
need to do it the right way, and there are resources out there today. So we'll provide you with all those. I have gone through every route to get to a rehab, get funding, go this, that, and the third. I know every little shortcut. I can cut it. If you're doing it yourself, you do 10 steps and takes 12 days. I can give you 3 steps and it'll take a day and a half and get you in rehab. So
Right.
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 we know the shortcuts, we know the game, and we're not playing a game.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, thank you
So,
both. And again, the co-occurrence is so important to recognize.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
because I think I mean, if you're not looking into the mental health aspect, you're leaving 50% of the equation out. I mean, you're
yep.
leaving out potentially not everyone in recovery. That's where they're um,
Right.
motivation started. But I will say
Mhm.
that those that do have a co-occurrence occurring, if you don't find that co-occurrence aspect, you don't find the mental health aspect of
Yep.
your journey, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be a very
Mhm.
difficult journey if you never look into the mental health reasoning behind certain choices that you make or certain decisions or so on. So this is coming from someone I highly recommend. So thank
You're
you both.
absolutely right. There's a reason we self-medicated, and if you don't deal with the reason, you're bound to repeat it. So
Right.
hit it right
Right.
on the head there, Tyler.
Well,
Right on the head.
thank you
Well, this has
Thanks for
been
having me,
both.
Tyler.
this has been great. We've never actually sat down and told our nonsense. So thank you guys so much. It's nice to have friends like you guys.
Perfect. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and until next time, bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Tim and Mike, for joining us on today's episode of Recovery Stories Have Power. If you'd like to learn more about their podcast, again, it's trash-podcast.com. Don't forget to give us a like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and leave us a review. That really does help. Thank you so much. This show is produced and engineered by me, Oliver Books, co-produced by our wonderful staff over at Faces and Voices of Recovery. The music you're hearing right now is courtesy of Chris Tate and his band Belghoul. Big shout out to the folks at his RCO, Passenger Recovery. If you have questions or feedback, or know someone who'd be great on the show, send us an email. That's podcast@facesandvoicesofrecovery.org. And like I said at the top of the episode, stick around. We've got some more content coming up right now.
So, I'll just get into my testimony. So I grew up in Trenton, New Jersey, and I had an older brother, much older sister. It's funny. I think back to these times, and everybody has when I'm in the rooms with a bunch of people, they have trauma, and a lot of it's childhood trauma. And, I didn't have any of that. I don't have childhood trauma to blame my addiction on. My addiction was always in me. I just didn't realize it until I had to address it in like an emergency situation. But I grew up, nice house, nice Christmases. I didn't want for anything. I had good parents, Christian parents. I was pretty well adjusted. And this is 1997, circa to 798. And I was a sophomore in high school, and I was playing varsity hockey, and I blew my knee out pretty bad. So that was it for me for the hockey season. Now this is right around where computers are like starting to come out, personal computers, PCs, all this, and we got a computer. And I remember asking my dad, "Can we get America Online?" And he's like, "I don't think so. That's not good. Internet's bad." Like, all right, man. So I found somebody to convince him to let me get AOL. And that progressed into, I had a cast on my leg. I had nothing to do but this computer thing sitting in my room. So I ended up teaching myself how to build websites at 15 years old or whatever. In 1997, it's rare, super rare. And I love hockey. And so right about this time, my hometown just built an arena, a pro sports arena. And everybody's excited about it. The whole town's excited about it. We're getting a hockey team in there. Oh, that's awesome. They announced the name of the team, the Trenton Titans. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm in love. So I make my own website, the Trenton Titans fan page or whatever, just messing around. Um, I get a call from the owner of the team one day, and he's like, did you make this Trenton Titans fan page thing? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, aside from violating several thousand copyright laws, would you like to come work with us? So at 15 years old, I'm working for a professional hockey team. So playing hockey went out the window. I I'm I'm Timmy the Kid. Everybody called me Timmy the Kid. And everybody would tell me, "You're gonna write your own ticket. You're fine." So in my mind, I'm like, perfect. I'm set for life. I just keep doing Tim because Tim is blessing all you with his presence, And being young and being successful at something like that, it gets you think you're invulnerable to things. You think you're above everything, and especially being a young kid, you don't know anything. Everybody's telling you you're the best at everything. You're the best. Blah, blah, blah. I had this superiority complex in my head that I was, God's gift to hockey, or what it turned into was sports entertainment. So I started with the website. I then began to do their print media, their graphics, their video, their it all came to a head with me sitting in a booth, high atop, 8,500 people, me just entertaining them with a music computer, with a video computer, with a goal horn. It was awesome. It was like the best time in my life I've ever had. So I peaked early. So like I worked for this team, and like all of a sudden it was like I'm not equipped for life, and this team is now my new addiction, right? So this is all I did. I barely went to my senior year of high school, didn't go to my senior prom. My girlfriend was like, I guess we're just not together anymore because you don't talk to me. So like I totally went into this 150,000%. So I it became my identity. I had no identity, and at a time in my life where I should have been, I don't know, whatever else 18-year-old kids do, I wasn't doing that. I was living a 35, 40-year-old man's life, and being told I'm awesome, I'm great. And I just thought I was great. And so at 17 years old, I get an apartment. That's a great idea for a kid that doesn't know how to do laundry or do dishes. Let's get him an apartment. So like my parents agreed to it because, like, well, he's the director of communications for a hockey team, so he can certainly handle his own apartment. So, 17 years old, I have my own apartment. I don't know how to do dishes. I don't know where the laundromat is. I don't know what to do. I just keep doing the hockey thing, and so like that became old hat to me. I was just riding the wave, and I started interacting with the wrong crowd, and so like I don't know, I'm 18 years old. I'm leaving my high school graduation. The only reason I graduated high school is because I bribed the teacher that was failing me with a suite at the hockey game where the mascot visited. So she let me slide for that one. So, you know, again, I'm taking the shortcut. I'm shortcuts. It's me. I'm shortcut on everything. So long story short, I get fired from the hockey team. 18 years old. I'm in the apartment. I don't know what to do for work. I don't have a trade. I don't have any knowledge. You know, I, any computer stuff I did was at the hockey team. So that all kind of fell apart. And my parents swooped in again, and they got me out of my apartment, took me down to a retirement community in Whiting, New Jersey. And, so I just kind of pumped the brakes, tried something else. I started going to community college. I went to one class out of seven. It was called music listening, and I failed that. But I met my friend at that class. That's what I got out of college. I met my friend Jamie, and that's how I met my wife, through him. So I meet my wife back then. My girlfriend, I get my stuff back together a little bit, and the hockey team wants me back. Shocker, right? They would, oh, you're better. Come on back. So I go back, and I'm a big shot again. Now I got my girlfriend, and now we're living in an apartment that the team provided us with, and I'm fine. This is cool. This is all right. Cool. Just try this again. I find out my girlfriend's pregnant at the time, and to me, in my 19-year-old mind, the world is just ended. My life is over, right? So like I fall apart so quick. Within like 6 months, I'm now doing heroin, something I never touched in my life. Somebody said, hey, want heroin? I'm like, yes, I want that. I'm going to do that forever now. And like I'm snorting heroin in Trenton, New Jersey, hiding it from everybody, thinking I am. And my girlfriend's getting bigger and bigger, and it's getting to the point where she's she's gonna have the baby, and she fell asleep. She was giving birth, she fell asleep. I left and I went downtown and I bought more dope, and I got back just in time for my daughter to be born. Um, Great father, right? So that marked the beginning of the end for young Timmy the kid, or whatever. That was, the spotlight was on me. I was an addict. I was an opiate addict. I was really bad. And this is back when heroin was heroin. There really was no fentanyl. If it was out, it wasn't anywhere you could get it back then. Um, so I don't get better. It ends up falling apart really bad. I'm 20 years old. Um, Everybody swoops in, crisis situation. Timmy's being a lunatic, and he's got his 1-year-old daughter. He's doing stupid shit. And, you know, I end up being told through this crisis thing, whole family's there, everybody's like freaking out. I'm just sitting there. I'm not allowed to say anything. A whole day's going by. I'm just in trouble. And I just, and one thing was asked to me. They're like, where do you want to go? You want to go to Maine or South Carolina? And I'm like, South Carolina. They're like, Maine it is. And I was on the bus the next morning to Bangor, Maine to my first rehab. And I didn't know what the hell was going on. I don't know how I went from superstar hockey guy to junkie on a bus in Boston. You know what I mean? Like, it was, long story short, I get to this rehab, and it's not a rehab, it's a work camp. It's a Christian work camp. I got out of it what I needed to get out of it at 19 years old. I went up there a child. I came out of there a man. And, I found my spirituality again, and I started to instantly move on. Two jobs right out of rehab, bought a house 2 months later, all these stressors, boom, right back on top of Tim. And all Tim knows right now is how not to use drugs. And these things are pressing on him because I feel like I'm overwhelmed. I feel like I'm going to make a mistake like I always have, like, just that defeating self-talk that I'm notorious for. And so I'm back. I'm 175 pounds. I'm like normal weight. I look normal. I'm working 2 jobs. Everybody's happy with me. I'm like, okay, everything's better now. Nobody wants me to go to Maine or South Carolina. I'm like, okay, everything's good. Got my kid. I got my wife. Um, I'm working 2 jobs. I became a workaholic. But like the problem was, this is 2005, and Oxycontin is growing on trees. So for me, someone who got a taste of drugs, and even in my infant mind at that point, I thought to myself, "Oh, I didn't get to experience all the good drugs. I only did a little bit. Now there's Oxycontin out, and I just had to, I turned my nose up at it, but I wanted to see it so bad. And eventually, I casually used over 15 years of marriage and raising a family. You know, uh, I said to the boys beforehand, if you ask my kids, when did daddy start using drugs? When that all happened for him? And they'd say, it happened a few years ago when mom and dad got divorced. And the whole 15 years I was raising those kids, I can tell you what Christmas I was high, what Christmas I was in withdrawal. It was just high withdrawal, back and forth. And it was miserable because, like, I never ripped the TVs off the walls. I never emptied our bank account. I spent money here and there, lied about it. Um, but like I never went on a run to where I fell apart and needed help. When things got bad, I just stopped because I couldn't let people know that I still had a problem. Um, and I knew I had a problem, but here we are now. I'm like 25, 26. I'm dabbling a little bit more, and I'm doing harder jobs. I was an IT guy for a good portion of my early 20s, and I had this brilliant idea that, you know what, I want to get some fresh air and work outside. So I'm going to become a UPS guy. They make good money. The worst idea I've ever had in my life. That job is horrible. Any UPS guys out there, my heart goes out to you because I know what you go through. So, it's not all like, 70-degree March sunny days. It's mostly cold and rain. So now throw that into the mix. Now I'm using here and there for energy to do the job. And then like I'll run out of drugs, run out of money, whatever. And then I'll start to get sick again. But now I'm not falling asleep. I'm watching the sun come up at 5 a.m. I'm in withdrawal, and I put my uniform on and I go deliver packages for 14 hours a day. This cycle was was exhausting, and it wore me down. And it was dangerous because, so I'll wrap up my career stories with this. I I was UPS guy, and it's just I'm not full in the drug scene. I'm just, if I can get it here and there, whatever, you know. So I I one of my stops every day, I would pick up these packages, and they would rattle, and I thought they were hearing aids. I was doing this stop for a year and a half, and I'm standing in there, and I'm waiting for them. I'm scanning the packages. They're finishing one up. I'm like, all right. Um, I hear the girl go, "Is it oxycodone 30 or is it oxycodone 15?" And I remember that very second. I remember those words, and I remember the pit I had in my stomach, and like time slowed down for a second. And I'm like, these aren't hearing aids, these are oxys. And I look down, and I have 50 packages in my, and now I'm starting to sweat. I'm starting to get sick. And I'm like, I already know where this is going. I'm an addict. If my addiction is not um, arrested, and if I'm not in recovery, I can't not use. So in that situation, not being in recovery, hanging on for dear life, I knew before I even took a step out of that office that this was going to be bad. And I had no control over that as someone trying to be in sobriety, faking sobriety. Um, for someone not in recovery, looking back, I can see that's the hindsight that I missed back then. So as I recall it unfolding, I grab those packages like a squirrel with a bunch of nuts, and I run in my truck. I drive down the road, and I park where nobody can see me, and I pop open one of the packages. And I'm having a particularly crappy day at this point. And when I pull out a bottle of Oxycontin, 80 milligram instant release, 270 of them, I'm like, oh boy, this is going to get interesting. So, needless to say, I was like an hour and a half behind what I should have been when I got that stop. I ended the route an hour and a half ahead. So, like, I became Superman, you know? So now this whole thing, this is towards the end of my career there. This whole thing is, I know how to get pills. I know where to get pills. I know how to do it. I had a whole system. I would bring my own supplies. I'd take 10 out of this bottle, package it back up, and just hope nobody would notice, Um, and that was my disease taking over. I had no control. I went there on my day off, dressed as a UPS guy, picking up packages, doing my thing, and then throwing them in a drop box. Like, this is insanity. I'm doing all this stuff. I'm leading a double life. I have a family of kids. I turn in. I'm a good dad. I love my kids. We had good Christmases, good camping trip. But like, I suffered through it all. I didn't enjoy it all. And looking back, I'm like, it's just lost time, And I, that's why I do our podcast, because I want to urge people: if you're not living your life, you're in recovery, and you're not living a life in recovery, you're slowly dying, and it's painful. And I want people not to have to go what I went through. I wish so many times, I wish I just said, I need help. I'm an addict. Like, how bad would that have been? Like, it's what happened was way worse. So anyway, that Oxycontin, it just fueled my addiction, took it to another level within, that purview or whatever. And my brother-in-law passes away suddenly at 43 years old. And even my kids say that they felt like the world ended at that day when my brother-in-law passed away, because we left our happy home in and we got a bigger house, so we could take in my brother-in-law's wife and his adult kid. And it was just stress. It was nonstop stress. Six of us, six women, not so much estrogen. I couldn't even. My dog was female. I was like, everywhere I looked, there was female, and like, you know, it was hard. It took a toll on me, on my kids, on my family. And what ended up happening was I me and my wife were fighting one day after peak season at UPS. It's probably January, February, and they had just moved out. So now it's just the four of us in our place that we don't even like. My kids are always like, "I miss our old home." I'm like, "Me too," and so we had me and my wife had a fight, and I was like, "You know what? I'm gonna go take a vacation. I'm gonna go to my parents' house. They're in Florida. I'm gonna go hang out at their house for a little bit." Um, Looking back, knowing the narrative, the storyline, within 2 weeks she had a boyfriend, or a guy she was sleeping with, and then she lied to me for a while, and I paid all the bills, and I couldn't understand. Like, we always got in fights. Can we just get back together now? Because, like, this is my family. I've been working on it for 15 years, and the longer it went, the stranger it got. I'm like, why are we not getting back together? I wasn't that bad. It was just a fight. I wasn't shooting heroin in front of my kids. Like, I'll stop what I'm doing like I have before. It wasn't coming back together. My wife became increasingly distant. Um, I'm 42 now. I think I was 37 when this all started, 38. And yeah, so she has a boyfriend, and I find all out. It's disastrous. The whole thing. It's an 8-month saga from when we split up to when we get back together. I find out that she gets beat up, and I take her back against my better judgment. Now, at that time, I was taking Suboxone to keep myself level. I just went to a shrink. I went to a shrink and told him I was depressed, and he said, "Do you have you ever been an addict?" I said, "Well, yeah, I used when I was younger." He's like, "Well, let's put you on Suboxone." I'm like, "Okay, that sounds great. Sounds like a cruise control. It's great." He's like, "All right, that'll be $300 though. You have to go across the street to the ATM." So I'm like, "All right, be right back, doc." So he's got me on Suboxone, and I'm split with my wife, and I'm just like not Tim. I'm not me. And when it all came to a head, and it came time to take to address the first chance I got to take my wife back, I took her back. And this guy, I would never have done that, not under those circumstances, those pretenses. I just took her back blindly because I was I was anesthetized in a way where, like, okay, okay, I want my family back. That's what I want. I didn't want to be a weekend dad. That was like the biggest failure in the world to me at that time. So I take her back, and the result of that is me finding out everything. And within 2 months, I got 2 DUIs. Now we're not getting back together. That's over. And in this time, November, right, Mike? I go to my first rehab. My my brother's a cop, and he's fed up with me, and he shows up at the hospital that I'm at. I didn't even know he was going to show up, and he's like, "Listen, one of three things: one, you're going to go to rehab; two, I'm going to beat the shit out of you; or three, I'm going to beat the shit out of you, and you're going to go to rehab." I'm like, "All right." I take door number one. Whatever, rehab. I don't even know what rehab is. I don't Rehab to me. Now let's rewind 15 years. Rehab to me is digging a hole in Maine. That was the only treatment I ever had. So I had no idea I had access to treatment. And I'm a UPS driver. I'm like, whatever. I'm just, I ended up in the ER. I'll go back a little bit. I it was it was the day after Thanksgiving. So yeah, so it's UPS. I Thanksgiving Thursday, work on Friday. I go in, it's freezing rain. Um, and I couldn't get a drink all day Thursday. And I didn't realize how bad that was going to be for me. I didn't realize that I needed a drink. I'm not much of an alcoholic. So it's I couldn't find a liquor store. I'm like, what the hell's going on? It's Thanksgiving. I should be drinking. So Friday comes around. It's a busy day. My truck is packed. I couldn't find the first box. It was top to bottom, front to back. So what I decided to do was go out on my route, 9 o'clock, go to the liquor store, get a bottle of Fireball, down that, and then I'm gonna work. I down that, I look at my truck, and I'm like, nah, I'm gonna go take the truck back. I bring the whole truck back, not one stop done. And I get my car, and And when I get into my car, I don't know where I'm going. I'm just leaving. I just don't want to be in a UPS truck. Don't want to be in the snow. I've had it. I'm drunk. I can't focus. I get a text from a friend that I haven't talked to in 3 years. And it says, yo, I got bags if you need any. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, as I'm in the parking lot, as I get in my car, I get a text. So I'm like, yep, I'm coming. So I drive to New Brunswick, New Jersey, meet my friend. I get a whole bunch of heroin. And the next thing I know, I'm bouncing off curbs and I'm in the middle of a traffic stop with a cop, a bunch of cops actually. And craziest thing is my brother gets me out of it. I call my brother. My brother talks to them, and they let me go. They had my wife come pick me up, but they're like, "Don't you dare come back for that car." And they saw the brown bag, they saw the nips or whatever. There's 5 bundles of heroin in my glove compartment that they just didn't see because they're so concerned with the alcohol. And they park my car. My wife comes and gets me. She doesn't say a word the entire ride back. I'm just like, she drops me off. I go in our we had a detached garage, a pool room. I go in there. I stay in there. I go to sleep till like 11 o'clock at night. I come out. Nobody's there. Everybody's gone. I don't know what the hell's going on. I Uber up to my car. Smart, right? Because that's where all the good stuff is. Um, I get in my car. I wake up face down on the ground with the cop's knee in between my shoulder blades. And it's the same guy. He's like, I told you not to come back. I'm like, I know. I'm so like, I get, that's it. That's how I met Mike. That's my brother sending me down to a rehab, and little did I know that my insurance paid for great rehab. I had no idea. I remember we were driving down to the rehab, and I said to my brother, "You think they'll let me smoke there?" He's like, "What? That's what you do in rehab." I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I couldn't smoke at my last one." So I go down there, and I don't know what to expect. A jail. I'm expecting jail. I get there like 1 o'clock in the morning. So I go into a room. I don't remember much of what I'm seeing. I go into a room and I see a guy's tattoos, and I'm like, yep, this is jail. This is where I'm at. I wake up 42 hours later on a Tempur-Pedic mattress, watching SpongeBob on the wall, and eating banana Fosters, bananas Foster. So like I kind of look around like, holy crap, rehab is awesome. Why didn't I do this years ago? This is fantastic. So like I'm eating steak dinners, I'm hitting on girls, I'm getting fed Librium and drugs. I'm like, I was in the snow yesterday delivering packages. Now I'm just hanging out in front of a fireplace in plaid pajamas. This is what's up. And I was all in from there. So from that point on, I played the rehab game. I was in rehab. I worked in rehab. I was back in rehab. I worked in rehab. I was back in rehab. I was, this cycle that progressively got worse. But that first time I met my friend here, Michael Oxley, one of those guys that like if you could put him in your pocket and carry him around with you, it would make you a better person. And he might fit in your pocket, but we'll leave that that's a joke, Mike.
I get it.
So like me and Mike hit it off, right? So we were friends instantly. And
You're a broken man. You are a broken man. When I walked into your room that day, I
yeah,
remember.
yeah, I was dead inside, and I wasn't gonna let anybody in. And within the 25 days there, I let two, maybe three people in, Mike Oxley being number one. He wasn't my counselor. He wasn't my tech. He was my nurse. He's dishing out meds. He's got 10 other guys behind me, but he's just going to stop. He's going to take 40 minutes. Everybody's going to sit out there miserable, and he's going to talk to me about nonsense. But Mike saw that I needed that, and that's what made Mike that's what made Mike makes or made Mike a good nurse. Is he it's not just medicine people need. They need verification, they need validation, they need support, and it doesn't have to be labeled support. It can just be a conversation. And And Mike was that for me. Instantly, I felt comfortable all of a sudden. I'm bouncing around a rehab. There's 100 people there. I don't know what's going on. I'm scared. I'm like, and Mike is the one that really grabbed me and settled me down. And I never forgot that. So like 7 years now, Mike, 6, 7
Yeah,
years
yeah,
later.
7 years.
I'm still friends with him on Facebook. Now we're not hanging out every day because it's just not how the cards are dealt. But I never lost track of him. And I don't know if you guys are like me at all, but like I know I'm going to be friends with somebody as soon as I meet them, and whether they know it or not, we're going to be best friends. And then most people, I'm like, nope, I'm good. But Mike is one of those guys where I was just like, yeah,
Well,
he's
thank
gonna.
you.
Shut up! After you've heard that 10 times, Mike knows the story. He knows that he played a integral part in me actually recovering, despite the relapses and making mistakes and bad decisions. I still get to that 0 point, that homeostasis point where Mike Oxley, the nurse, could talk to me and calm me down. And that version of Tim, that was the core of like, I am an addict. I need to get help. I don't know how to get help. Maybe I'll work in treatment. Maybe that became my recovery. So like I did it wrong 100 different ways. And it's funny when I think I'm trying to do it right for once, and look who's involved. So like Mike's one of those special people. And it's not just me. I know everybody that knows Mike is, Oxley was he was the best. He would give me cigarettes and extra Valium and whatever. No, but like it was like everybody knew Mike. Everybody was invested in Mike, or Mike was invested in everybody, and he had a gift, and he really. I, I don't want to say saved my life because I'm pumping his tires a little too much, but he really had an impact on my life. We have a guest that comes on, a friend of Mike's, friend of mine, Tina C. She's a hell of a story. Uh, she attributes it to Mike, what Mike did for her early on in her recovery, just like he did for me. So, I'm forever grateful to anybody who's gotten me to this place right now, 520 something days clean, to where I don't dread being alive anymore. Like for 41 and a half years, um, I, I, I didn't like being in my own skin. I just didn't like being a human, and now, like, for the first time, I think I got all the pieces put back together, and I'm trying to do it the right way and own my recovery and be honest and be an open book. I'm doing the opposite. Running a podcast and telling every little secret I have is the opposite of what Tim has done in the past. So bringing Mike in at that juncture is it's not coincidental. I believe in a higher power. I've seen God. I've white light experience. I know there's a God, and I don't know if it's a he or a she or an it or a plane of existence, but something saved me from me because I was hell bent on ending myself in the way I wanted to end myself. And I looking like, all right, so now I have serious health problems and serious pain problems from this addiction world I just threw myself into. I have serious issues now. I broke my neck in a car accident. Um, I have a plate in my neck. I have what's it, chronic microvascular ischemic disease, meaning like I'm shaky from like I don't know, a million hits to the head and 10 overdoses. Um, I got problems, and for once I'm addressing myself. I'm asking for help. I'm being honest about where I'm at. Um, I can see what I have to offer now. My self-worth is real now. It's not something I fabricated. I get my self-worth from helping other people. And keeping people going down the roads that I went down. You don't want to be me. You do not want to be crashing pickup trucks, um, shooting heroin and cocaine in Kensington and Philadelphia and overdosing once a week. And you don't want to, you don't want to get to that point. It could have been arrested if I knew mental health, if I knew that I needed to take care of my body, all these things in hindsight. Right. But now, like, I have to deal with the consequences of my actions. So I'm disabled. I, it sucks. I don't like that. I felt like I was useless. 40-year-old man living with his parents. My kids didn't even talk to me. Now, a year and a half later, I'm, me and my girls we're best friends. And, I had a better relationship with them now than I did when I was next door to them or in the same house with them. So finally I just did the opposite of what Tim would do because I was going to die. I graduated from pharmaceutical pills to the occasional heroin bag here and there, cocaine, whatever, to the streets of Philadelphia, where most people don't walk out of there. And I was face down, needle in my arm, gun in my face. I don't want to get into war stories, but like I, I, I was like, what's the worst thing I can do here at 40 years old? Oh, go to Kensington. Okay, I'm gonna go do that. See if I live through that. And by the grace of God, I'm alive. And you know, I'm I'm good at computers, like I said earlier, and I have time on my hands. So I looked at it all and I was like, what am I gonna do to make this all work for once? Because it hasn't worked. Um, I I I joined AA, or I went back to AA. I go to 3 meetings a week. I chair a meeting. I run a podcast where I've told this story 10, 15 other times. My dad came on the podcast and talked about Christmas Eve when I overdosed and he had the Narcan me and all the cops came. Like, there's stories if you want to go through our library of nonsense. But like, I I needed to feel like I had something to give. Like, after all these years, I lost who I was and what am I. Um, you know, I came up with this podcast, and because I have the time to do it, um, I can physically do it, and I think I have something to offer. And I jumped into it, and Mike coming on was I don't know, divine intervention or whatever, but it was appointed, and me and Mike have been the backbone of this thing for a while, and it is part of my recovery. It helps a lot of people, and that was that was the goal, was to help other people. But really, what I didn't realize is it was to help me, because it was a way for me to do what I've never done in recovery, what I've been told to do 100 times in recovery or in sobriety. Um, to be honest, bare your soul, truth will set you free. Own your mistakes, own your recovery, take your recovery seriously. Never did. I worked in treatment for a year and a half, never took recovery seriously. Thought it was a joke. I was like, you guys, I'm them, right? I'm shooting heroin, but like, I'm better. So I'm a tech. So I'm gonna look down on them and be like, well, like, it's just that ego, that pride. Like, I was my own higher power, and you know, I fail. I fail. And to be able to just say, I'm not this. I'm just me. I made mistakes. I'm paying for mistakes. But at least I have my dignity back, and I can bare my soul without feeling judged. Addiction affects everybody, so it's a level playing field. And it's a gift to be able to meet people on their level, because you're both on the same playing field. You both have she may, you know, race, creed, gender, sex, whatever. It doesn't matter. You can be a 70-year-old mailman or a 20-year-old UPS guy. You're both addicts, and you can connect in that way. And it's a beautiful thing. I see it all the time in the rooms. And so that's really it for me. I'm blessed to have what I have. I'm blessed to be alive, and I'm blessed to be able to say I'm blessed to be alive, because that's not something I probably would have said my whole life. I was so disappointed in 2012 when the world didn't end, like literally disappointed. That's where my head was at. So like, I've been given a a third, fourth, fifth chance, whatever this is. This is just another chance. I took for so many years. It's time for me to get back, and that's what I'm doing. And it humbles me because I have to bare my soul. I can't put on an act. I can't be fake and do this podcast.
Let us know if you liked this new format, and maybe we'll keep working in some of these more stripped down open recovery stories. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. Again, don't forget to share, like, subscribe. We love hearing from you. Email us, podcast@facesandvoicesofrecovery.org. Visit us online. That's facesandvoicesofrecovery.org/podcast. Until next time, take care of yourself. We'll see you on the next one.